Hello everyone. Today we will go through various general principles of care and protection of children that must be taken care while administering justice for the juvenile. Section 3 of the Juvenile Justice Act 2015 provides for the general principles which guides the government, courts and other agencies while implementing the provisions of Juvenile Justice Act. Therefore, these are the cornerstone of the children justice system. We start with the principle of dignity and worth. It emphasizes a child's dignity and worth should be respected and upheld during all stages of his or her journey within the juvenile justice system. Right of dignity includes not being humiliated, personal identity, boundaries, and space being respected, not being labeled and stigmatized, being offered information and choices, and not being blamed for their acts. Therefore, in consonance with the principle, it is incumbent upon the board that at the time of initiating the inquiry, to ensure that the child in conflict with law has not been subjected to any ill treatment by the police or by any person, including a lawyer or probation officer, and take corrective steps in case of such ill treatment. The next principle is principle of participation. It includes both right to be heard and consideration of views. Right to be heard means every child has a right to express their views freely in all matters which affects them, whether it is a legal proceeding, care decisions, or rehabilitation processes. Consideration of views means that the child's opinion must be given due weight depending on their age, maturity, and understanding. This prevents token participation and ensures meaningful involvement. This principle of participation applies to all proceedings under the Act, including the Juvenile Justice Board hearings, Child Welfare Committee decisions, rehabilitation and social integration measures. Further, this principle aligns with the international standards, reflects the UN Convention on Right of Child, which recognizes participation as a core right alongside with survival and development. The next principle is the principle of best interest. This principle ensures that all decisions and actions must prioritize the welfare and holistic development of the child above all other considerations. This is the guiding standard in every proceeding under Juvenile Justice Act. Therefore, courts, authorities, institutions must apply the principle of best interest of the child as the primary standard in every case, so as to ensure the safety, well-being, and permanence of the child and enabling him to survive and reach his full potential. The next principle is the principle of family responsibility. The family is recognized as the first and most important source of care, nurture, and protection for the child. Parents and guardians hold the responsibility to ensure that the child's physical, emotional, intellectual, and social development. Therefore, the Juvenile Justice Act emphasizes that children should ideally grow up in a family environment that provides love, security, and guidance. So, wherever possible, rehabilitation and reintegration of the children in conflict with law or in need of care should be carried out within family settings only. This is ensured by minimizing the institutionalization. As such, institutional care is considered a last resort. Preference is given to family based care such as foster care, adoption, or kinship care. The next principle is the principle of safety. This principle ensures that the child is safe and is not subjected to any harm, abuse, or maltreatment. This may range from neglect to sexual abuse, including any emotional strain due to separation from the family, education disruption, or ill effect on reputation. This must be ensured while the child is in contact with the care and protection system or even thereafter also. Therefore, police, juvenile boards must ensure human treatment and the child's identity cannot be disclosed to media. This principle places dual responsibility on state. First, not to resort to restrictive measures in the name of care and protection. Second, to control the effect of the harm caused to the child. The next principle is the principle of non-stigmatizing semantics. This principle ensures that accusatory words not to be used in the process pertaining to a child. Therefore, the use of words like arrest, remand, accused, charge sheet, trial, prosecution, warrant, summon, conviction, inmate, delinquent, neglected, custody, or jail is prohibited. There are certain suggestive words which are as under. In case of accused or under trial, it child alleged to be in conflict with law need to be used. Likewise, for arrest, it should be apprehend. For custody, it should be protective custody. Trial should be inquiry. In place of charge, it should be notice of accusation. In place of convict, child found to be in conflict with law. The next principle is the principle of non-waiver of rights. By virtue of this principle, any right of the child cannot be waived and is not permissible or valid, whether it is sought by child or the person acting on behalf of the child or a board or a committee, etc. Even the non-exercising of a fundamental right shall not be amounting to waiver. Further, if any admission or confession by the child before the police or board that he has committed the offense is not admissible in evidence. The next principle is the principle of equality and non-discrimination. By virtue of this principle, a child should not be discriminated on any ground, including sex, caste, ethnicity, place of birth, or disability. Under this principle, equality of access, opportunity, and treatment shall be provided to every child. By virtue of Juvenile Justice Act, state parties shall take all appropriate measures to ensure that the child is protected against all form of discrimination. The next principle is the principle of right to privacy and confidentiality. By virtue of this principle, every child has a right to protect his privacy and confidentiality by all means and throughout the judicial process. It is an offense to publish a report disclosing the name, address, school, or any other particular which may lead to the identification of a child in conflict with law. Further, all the reports related to child and considered by the committee or the board shall be treated as confidential. However, it does not curtail the right of the child and his or her lawyer to access to the documents filed before the Juvenile Justice Board. The next principle is the principle of institutionalization as a measure of last resort. According to this principle, a child shall be placed in institutional care as a step of last resort after making a reasonable inquiry. Under Juvenile Justice Act, keeping a child in conflict with law in jail or police lockup is prohibited. He has to be released on bail at the earliest, irrespective of the nature of the offense. Even in cases of bail with surety and child is not having sufficient surety, the Juvenile Justice Board should consider modification of the condition of the bail. It can be said that grant of bail is a rule and rejection is an exception. The next principle is the principle of repatriation and restoration. As we all know, the primary purpose of Juvenile Justice Act 2015 is to reform or repatriate the child into the society. In line with this principle, every child in the juvenile justice system has the right to be reunited with his family at the earliest. Further, to be restored back to the same socio-economic and cultural status, except in the circumstances where such restoration and repatriation is not in the best interest of the child. The next principle is the principle of fresh start. According to this principle, all the past records of any child under the juvenile justice system should be erased except in special circumstances. Therefore, Juvenile Justice Board has been conferred power to make an order directing the police to destroy records pertaining to conviction of a child in conflict with law after the expiry of the period of limitation for filing appeal or any other reasonable period. Such record cannot be used in subsequent juvenile proceedings also. The next principle is principle of diversion. As we know, the juvenile justice system is a diversion from the criminal justice system. Its philosophy is restorative and rehabilitative rather than punitive or retributive. As such, all such measures which do not resort to judicial proceeding for dealing with the children in conflict with law shall be promoted unless it is in the best interest of the child or the society as a whole. Accordingly, some model rules have been framed, like no first information report shall be registered except in case of heinous offences. The power to apprehend shall be exercised only with regard to heinous offences, unless it is in the interest of the child. The last principle we are discussing is the principle of natural justice. This principle envisages that basic procedural standard of fairness, which include right to have a fair hearing, rule against bias, and the right to review, shall be adhered to by all the persons or bodies acting in judicial capacity under the Juvenile Justice Act. After learning about various principles in previous slides, it can be said that the principle of natural justice has been thoroughly incorporated in the Juvenile Justice Act, as all such principles enshrined in Section 3 are nothing but a natural extension of the principle of natural justice. With this, the chapter on general principle of care and protection of children is concluded. Thank you. This series would be continued further to explain other important aspects of juvenile justice in detail. This would be helpful for all the individuals, including professionals in legal field. Do continue to watch this series and share your feedback by way of comments.